Welcome to the Hogsty with your crew, Adam Terrassi, Alex Zeese, Sean Conti, and Steve Thomas. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty Podcast. My name is Sean Conti. Glad to be back with you after a 2-week, let's call it a vacation. Alex Zeese is here with me today. What's up, man? Were you guys good boys while I was gone here on the Hogsty?
Well, I had a lot of fun. I mean, I was doing the whole Washington Valor thing, pretending to be a real reporter while you were away. It was pretty fun.
It's all about showing up, man, and putting on appearances. That's what I've learned in life. Would you say that's correct, Steve Thomas?
Appearances is everything, Sean. And what I realized this week was that I'm entirely too focused on football and the Redskins in the draft because I was at work at the office and somebody said, "Hey, did you see the story in the news about this, child who got kidnapped?" Whoa. And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, what are you, living under a rock?" And I said, "Listen, if it doesn't have to do with the Redskins draft, I really probably have not seen it because I've spent every waking moment trying to figure that out." And she just looked at me like I was absolutely crazy.
Well, being in D.C., it was a pretty good sports week for D.C. outside of the Redskins.
Oh, yeah, the Wiz
and I'm sure,
and the Caps that they did.
Yeah, the Wizards, the Caps, and the Nats all won on the same night, which was something that doesn't happen often.
In the meantime, my Dodgers gave up 9 runs in the 8th inning the other night. Yay.
Yeah, I said this to Steinberg. The Redskins really missed a chance. They should have signed Kirk Cousins at like 6:50 that night. Right before those games all started.
I don't think that would have helped.
True story.
The Caps and the Wizards call. So.
No. Just to make it a DC.
Well, actually, it was also, if they were going to get rid of him, that would have been the time to do it. They could have buried the lead under Caps and Wizards.
I know Ted would have been mad as hell, though.
That's true.
All that, both his teams won, and everybody talking about Kirk.
That's true. Hey, thanks to Ted for retweeting our little Valor story last week, by the way.
That got me like another 300 reads on that story.
Oh, that's tight, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
Come talk to us anytime, Ted. We'll be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of billionaires on the show.
All right, well, we got plenty to talk about. The season schedule is out. The draft is coming up in just 5 short days here. We got Thursday coming up here. It's Saturday as we speak to you now. Who knows? I guess we'll put this out tomorrow. But anyways, we got plenty to talk about today. I know we got some position group breakdowns, so to speak, or really draft previews, I should say. Talk about players coming up that might land to the Redskins. So let's get right on to that first before we give any kind of mock draft predictions or anything like that.
Which one do you want us to go first, Sean? Pick one.
All right, well, so we still got to do offensive linemen. We got to do wide receivers. We got to do tight ends. Right. Let's go on the line. Come on. That's where battles are won and lost, right?
Okay, we can do this offensive line thing. That's mine. We can do this pretty fast because I think we can all agree that offensive tackle, at least, is not high on the Redskins' priority list this year because we've got 2 good ones. We've got a good backup. So it'd be very surprising if you drafted anybody that's not a 6th or 7th rounder. So I'm just going to unlike last week when I went into super detail about the running backs, we're just going to kind of blow through these on the tackles at least. The number 1 overall tackle prospect, Cam Robinson from Alabama, 6'6", 310. Hit the knock on him. Sometimes it looks like a top 5 pick. Sometimes he doesn't. He's inconsistent. It's a very weak tackle class overall. Next one, Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin. He's also sort of a round 1 or 2 type of guy, 6'6", 314. Good technique on him, but not an elite tackle. Garrett Bowles, Utah. Walter, these rankings, by the way, are from Walter Football again because hashtag not a scout, hashtag can't watch
just a dude
can't do film on offensive tackles like Adam can. But anyway, Garrett Bowles, offensive tackle, Utah. 6'5", 300, so he's a little slim, at least in terms of offensive linemen. The book on him is he's very athletic. Deion Dawkins, I listed him in the tackle group, but some people think he's a guard. He's from Alex's alma mater there at Temple. Looked at as around 2 or 3 prospect. 6'5", 320, decent athlete. Needs some work on his technique, especially his hand placement. Again, some people look at him as a potential NFL guard. Antonio Garcia from Troy. about a round 2 to 4 type of guy. 6'7", 302, so he needs to put on some bulk. He's tall. He's a fast zone blocker. So that is tackles. Unless anybody has any comments, we'll move on to guards. Guards is somebody where we need a guard. We need a new Sean Laval. So let's pay a little bit more attention to this list. The number 1 overall guy we've talked about before.
I wouldn't put it that way, Steve.
You wouldn't. How would you put it?
We don't need a new Laval.
We need a new better. We need somebody
someone
else.
else in time.
That's true. We don't need a new Laval. We need somebody else.
Laval kind of in Quanjo because they're about the same quality overall.
There was a terrible story about his brother. By the way,
I saw that. That's awful.
Our best wishes to the Quandijo family on that one.
Absolutely.
I don't really want to get into it, quite honestly.
No.
Number 1 guard, Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky. He's a left tackle in college, but he's only 6'4", 300, so his body type is more guard.
Everyone loves Lamp, by the way.
Yeah, he's the number 1 overall guard prospect.
Who doesn't love a good Lamp?
Could be a late round 1 guy. It depends. He's already used to the left side, so he would kind of fit in sort of perfect for Sean Laval's replacement. Very athletic, very strong, great prospect. The number 2 guy, Dan Feeney from Indiana, he's sort of around 2 or 3 prospect. He was a right guard in college, so he's really more of a right side guy. 6'4", 305. Ethan Pokic, if I pronounce that right, from LSU, guard or center prospect. 6'6", 310, so he's really big for a guard center type. But LSU, big time competition.
Right.
So he's got that going for him. The 4th prospect, Taylor Moten, guard tackle prospect from Western Michigan, 6'5", 330. So he's a big dude. He's a right side guy. Right, he played right tackle, but he's probably a right guard in the NFL. And last, 5th, here's our sleeper pick, Jordan Morgan from Kutztown. Small school sleeper pick. Yeah.
That is a small school.
He's sort of a
in the
sort
cut.
of around 3 to 5 prospect. He was at the Senior Bowl, held his own. He's only 6'2", 313, so he's definitely an interior guy.
Okay.
But there's your sleeper pick. So that is offensive lineman in a quick nutshell.
There we go. Obviously, probably not going to be taking any of those top guys anytime soon or early in our draft.
Maybe Lamp.
But yeah, no,
I could
obviously,
see,
keep in mind
I could
what's
see
coming
Lamp
out.
falling to us potentially.
Yeah, you heard his name a couple times. Yeah, that's definitely true. People have definitely talked about him.
We know who tracks with linemen loves Lamb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to make as many love lamp jokes as we can in the next 40
on
minutes.
The guards, though. I do think, matter of fact, interior line, period, like guard and center, is definitely something that needs to be addressed. A lot of people don't like to talk about the center position because we got Spencer Long, and obviously building your own draft picks, investing in them, investing time in them is something important. We're going to have to definitely need better play from. If we don't go first round with a guard in Lamp, we definitely got to address the situation. But mid rounds, later round picks is going to be pretty difficult, honestly. So I do think that Laval, truth be told, as much as we don't like him, it's looking like he probably got another year as the starter for the Redskins. Because I don't even see a backup that's capable of taking this spot right now. I don't know about y'all though.
I think Lamp would be difficult to for the draft to converge. So we would pick Lamp at 17. I think is a long shot. And so you may be right, because a lot of these guys I read off are more right side types, and what we really need is someone who could fit in on the left side better. And so you may be right, Jamal. We may be looking at another year of Sean Laval and hoping that Ari Quanjo develops.
That's the best shot with Quanjo, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm one of the few people who said Quanjo played pretty well last year. I would rather see him get the shot to start this year because it's his third season. You got to give him a chance over Laval. And, I've just heard, this is just what I've read because, I'm not an expert when it comes to scouting linemen either, but people have said this is one of the worst drafts in a long, long time for grabbing a lineman.
Doesn't help us.
This
I don't
is
think like a guy like
depth draft.
I don't think a guy like Cam Robinson would be a top of the heap, guy on a normal draft year.
Yeah.
For example. So there you go.
Yeah. Things are sparse. All right, well, let's move on again. Let's do another group here coming up in the draft. Should we do wide receivers or tight ends? What do you guys think?
So
All right.
I just like
Let's do it.
Steve, man. Look, I'm not a scout. I don't watch the film. I don't put in the hours. Yeah, I forgot the
hashtag not a scout.
I don't put in the hours to watch films, man. But look, so I got 4 names. More specifically, I only got 4 names because I don't necessarily think wide receiver for obvious reasons is big on our board. But here's the 4 names that I came.
We're pretty deep.
Exactly. We're pretty deep with the people that we got already. So just mid-round picks, probably from 3rd to 6th round projections. So first person I'll go with is Cooper Kupp. He's the best out of the 4 that I have. Cooper Kupp is projected a 2nd to 3rd round pick. So Cooper is a guy who came out of I want to say Eastern Washington. He set all-time records in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns with 428 catches, 6,400 yards, and 73 touchdowns. Just last year, he had 93 catches for 1,600 yards and 21 touchdowns. So this is just something that he's been doing throughout his entire career. He has a football family tree in the NFL. His folks was in the NFL. His strengths, according to NFL.com's draft profiles, elite level production for any level of football. He has strong hands in their natural, catches passes like Larry Fitzgerald, plucks it away from his body and immediately tucks it away. Utilizes route speed variances to create deep ball opportunities. So obviously different speed as he's running his routes. He's capable of doing that. Weaknesses that's listed: a little upright on his routes, lateral quickness, out of breaks, underneath provide no early separation. So he operated as a big slot, but could lack separation quickness to open clean throwing windows underneath for NFL quarterbacks. So I guess within like the 5 to 10 yard range, I'm assuming. Sources, one source said that if a team with a good quarterback is able to draft him, they need to look out because in 2014 he played Eastern Washington played Washington University, and he punked both of their top corners that's supposed to be drafted. Actually, I think Marcus Peters got drafted to the Chiefs, I think, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. But he punked Marcus Peters and Sidney Jones, who I think is being drafted this year, if I'm not mistaken. So,
I think I've seen.
So he
Jones's
embarrassed both
name.
of them. NFL comparison is Jarvis Landry. So they feel like he can be utilized as a slot and also play on the outside as well in the NFL. So they think he holds a lot of potential, and obviously his production backs that up as well. So that's the first guy that I listed. I don't know if you guys have any quick thoughts on him.
No, keep going, man.
The next one is a local guy in the DMV area, Isaiah Ford, out of Virginia Tech, 6'1", 194. Strengths is a superb athlete with good height, able to shake press coverage with the jab step and sudden burst. Feet look spring-loaded underneath. Features big acceleration out of his brakes. He has various route speed as well to disguise his intentions. Can get up and over cornerbacks without appearance of much effort. Weaknesses: thin frame, needs weight for greater functional strength. Can be directed off route by force. Will sit and wait too long on throws. Needs to shield throws from defenders. NFL comparison is Justin Hunter. Bottom line is tall but thin, but he uses his suddenness to uncover on all 3 levels and his speed to climb over the top and stresses defenses vertically. So that's that on Isaiah Ford.
Not the most ringing endorsement I've ever heard of a guy, but anyway, like we said, we all know we're not going to be taking a receiver anyway. But interesting to know.
Probably not. He wasn't that impressive. But the third, and I actually like this guy from the few games that I've watched him out of Michigan, is Amara Darboh. Amara Darboh is 6'2", 214. Hold on one sec. His strengths is good NFL size with above average arm length.
A little
Experience. He has experience in the pro-style passing attack with Michigan. fluid, working two-way releases from the slot, has smooth transitions into his routes, and won't give away plant-and-go cuts to the post, allowing him to stay ahead of the cornerback. He adjusts routes to create better throwing opportunities for his quarterback as well. A few weaknesses. He's a build-up runner who is slow to eat up cornerback cushion. Play speed appears to be average. So he ran a 4.4 at the combine. So I guess they're assuming, obviously, for him to run a 4.4, he doesn't look like he runs a 4.4 in the game. Missing suddenness and twitch. He's an inconsistent release quickness against press. Could struggle to uncover against aggressive man coverage. The ball will beat him up and suffers from focus drops. He also needs to improve in positioning against defensive backs. His NFL comparison is Mohamed Sanu from the Atlanta Falcons. Bottom line,
could be worse there.
Bottom line is Darboh caught the attention of scouts from very early on his final season in Michigan. His outstanding size will have some teams excited, but he needs to run well in order. Oh, well, I should have skipped that part because that's post-combine comments. But he lacks the quickness in hands to make a living underneath, but has the physical traits and willingness to help as a blocker that could get teams to bite on the second day in the draft. So scheme is obviously important for whoever drafts Amari Darboh. And lastly, for the receiver group is KD Cannon out of Baylor. He's another 4.4 guy. He's 5'11", 182. Strengths, extremely athletic, able to leap over low tackle attempts and twist upper body in mid-air to adjust to the throw. So obviously he's great when the ball is in the air. Smooth, long strider who can eat up cushions and go get it on vertical routes. Very hard to overthrow him. Looks to stack corners on his hip when he's desired positioning on post routes. Obviously, like I said, he's good with the ball in the air. They mentioned his ball tracking ability. So we've seen that before with obviously Deshaun Jackson, and when a few bad throws were thrown his way, he still made the catches. Typically my bad, I clicked the wrong button. But typically a body catcher, but flashes ability to snatch throws well outside of his frame. Weaknesses is obviously slim frame, lacks route strength. Pad level is way too high into breaks for comeback routes, causing him to skid to a stop. Shows some balance issues in his routes. Missing sharp stop and open ability to create space underneath. And obviously a body catcher who struggled with contested catches. He finished 2016 with 9 drops. So that's obviously a high rate. And ran stick routes with good stops. Goes and stop and goes. So I guess that was obviously that's something that I don't know why it's in a weakness, but I guess I guess they had an issue with it. But the NFL comparison is Paul Richardson out of Seattle. I think he was injured last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I can't even remember his 2016 season, but 2015 he was a decent guy.
They compared him to an injured player.
Not a good sign.
What happened there?
I don't know, man.
That's
bottom line, and we'll end it with this: is Cannon is slightly built and a novice route runner, but has outstanding vertical speed to climb over the top of cornerbacks and force safety help his way. Cannon may not have the short area shiftness for a move inside, so he will likely be a niche prospect who fits with teams looking for a field stretcher with some home run potential. And that covers it for the receiver groups.
All right.
I just wanted to mention two more names real fast, three more names real fast, and I'm going to blow through them. Two guys at the top of the draft, John Ross. The dude ran a 4.2. He's getting near Darrell Green speed, so look for him to maybe be the top wide receiver off the board. I love him. He's the Deshaun Jackson comp. I wish he could be a Redskin, even though he won't. Mike Williams, from Clemson, 6'4", 220 is the other top guy. I think we have a couple of Mike Williams on the team now. So and the other guy, I'd like to throw some good tidings out to Jalen Robinson from Air Force. He's going to get drafted this year, so he'll be a back of the day 3 guy. But it's good to see an Air Force guy get drafted. So watch for Jalen Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the guys that we would really want receiver-wise probably won't be available to us, and none of those other guys are really would inspire me to reach for them.
Also, we're ridiculously deep at wide receiver.
Good.
Well, remember this though.
I mean, it's just,
I published my missive on draft, on our draft history this week. I'm not going to read all this, go into it, but just suffice to say that we draft a ton of wide receivers.
We do.
Just a ton, and so it wouldn't surprise me, just out of habit, if we draft a receiver at some point, even though we really don't need one.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me to see us do that.
Something on
at
Saturday.
Some point. Probably day 3. Yeah,
No,
Saturday, day 3 guy.
All right.
Yeah, and you're making a great point because we always say we won't do it, and then we do. Yeah. Okay, so let's do tight ends real quick to wrap this
All right,
up, and then
I got
let's
3
move
names
on.
for you guys that I want to go over fairly quick. Tight end, much like receiver, much like offensive line, we're kind of set. So none of the guys I was looking at are, first 2-round picks. The first guy I want to go over is a guy who should be a first-rounder, but he has an injury, ACL injury. That's Jake Butt from Michigan. 6'5", 246 pounds. Could drop pretty far because of that injury. He probably won't play next year. So if you're looking long-term, he could be a pretty interesting guy to grab if he drops. Because he could provide some good value long term. He's a solid all-around player. He's not elite at any one thing, but he's pretty good at everything that you want a tight end to do. He's a good blocker, good pass catcher, has good speed. He just isn't elite at any of those spots. But overall, if you're looking for somebody who could eventually work his way into that number 1 role for us, he might be one of those guys. Next. Yeah,
offer some good versatility.
The next guy I want to go over is a guy from Virginia Tech, Bucky Hodges, who's 6'6", 257. He's probably a Jordan Reed comp. If you watch some of his highlights, now here's the thing: he's very raw, talent-wise, just like Jordan Reed. He started out as quarterback, then turned into a tight end. So he's got really, really good speed. He's got that whole freak athlete thing that we see from guys like Davis and Jordan Reed. Not as good with the ball in his hands as he is, making the catch, but, still nothing to shy away from. Has had 500 yards every year he's played as a receiver. Not a blocker, though. And I don't know if I mentioned, he's probably going to go in the 4th or 5th round. He might move up just because I think that athletic tight end thing is starting to become very in vogue in the NFL. So, we might see guys like that start to sneak up in the draft day.
You know what, though, also, Alex? I mean, he's 6'6". Mm-hmm. I think you can turn a guy who's 6'6", 250 into be a better blocker with pro coaching. I'm sorry, who was the name of this guy you're
Bucky
talking
Hodges.
about? Bucky Hodges. Yeah, I mean, a guy with that kind of size, I think, you could really use a guy like that.
He's a little bigger than Jordan Reed or
he's a lot bigger
Davis
than
might
Jordan
be.
Reed.
I don't know if he's 250, but Davis is about 6'6", isn't he? He's a tall guy.
No, well, yeah, Davis is, but Reed is about 6'3".
Yeah.
I mean, Bucky Hodges is significantly taller.
Oh, yeah. He's much bigger, but it's this whole freak athlete tight end kind of thing that is so popular now. Last guy I want to go over, this is kind of a sleeper pick for the whole tight end position. He'll also be a day 3 pick. His name is Michael Roberts. He's a senior out of Toledo, Ohio. And the reason I want people to pay attention to him is he's what I think the Redskins are lacking. He's a 270-pound tight end. And if you look at what we have, it's all these 230 guys who, they're glorified wide receivers playing tight end, basically.
Or H-back guys.
Yeah. And even then, they don't block like an H-back used to. At least if you're thinking Joe Gibbs-style H-back.
Right.
So this guy would be your more traditional lines up outside of tackle to block type tight end. He has pretty good hands. You need to hit him in the numbers. When I was watching his highlights, all the passes they showed him catching were, right in the chest, but he was making those catches pretty well. Very kind of interesting because he's got that frame. They'll line him up on the wing, and that's a good mismatch on a corner. At least that's what they're doing with him in college. Not great speed, but, decent enough where, he can get the 10, 15 yards you need, move the chains. But like I said, I think he would be a great guy for them to add. You could get him coached up on being a really excellent blocker at that size with a guy like Callahan. And, that's something the Redskins have lacked at the tight end position, frankly, is we just don't have that guy who can maul you on the line.
Even Logan Paulson, as big as he was, really wasn't a mauler.
No, he wasn't a mauler, but
know.
he was decent,
Right.
He was better than anything we have right now.
I think we'd be remiss also in not mentioning O.J. Howard.
Sure.
He's the top of the draft guy that, Adam and, Robbie Duncan and all these guys are just, losing their minds over.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'll just say that I will lose my mind if the Redskins waste a draft pick on a tight end in the first round. So God help us if that happens.
That's why
But I just wanted to
focus on guys who are
mention
day
O.J.
three
Howard.
guys,
Yeah, I just wanted to mention him because,
Sure.
we didn't forget about him. We just,
No.
ignored him.
Like I said, I purposely want to look at day three guys for
Hey,
tight end.
275 though, man. I'm sorry. As much.
Yeah.
270.
Okay, cool. He got a little leeway, trying to drop some weight, but at 275, I'm about to say, boy, he was a couple bad meals away from being on the D line. So that's the one thing that's the one thing that's concerning.
A couple pizzas away.
It's just you got to be careful with those weights because although Alex is right, I think a lot of people's intentions in the front office and even coaches is to try and get as close as balanced as possible. So Alex, do you know when you were describing the guy, I forgot his name. Forgive me. No,
Which
the last
one,
guy that was
Roberts?
270.
The one from Toledo? Yeah.
Okay, so was Roberts?
Roberts.
He was pretty good in the passing game as well.
Yeah, he plays for a mid-major school, so you don't expect to see a lot of amazing things from guys out of that. But, he was a solid contributor, 20 to 30 catches a year kind of
Okay.
tight
So now
end.
I was saying that because, if they want somebody to be as balanced as possible to be effective in the run and passing game, which is something that we lack as far as a run blocking tight end, then if he can be a valuable contributor in the passing game, then I'm all for it. But, that's all I have.
I mean, he was a go-to target at that school, but that's because, they're so desperate for
Toledo.
elite talent.
Right.
In those levels that a decent tight end at the NFL level is elite down there. So,
All right, I got you, man. We all good there.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. With that wrapping up, I have to say, guys, I would be pretty disappointed if we went for any of these three position groups that we talked
Totally
about
agree
today,
with you.
frankly, early in the
agree
draft. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's probably a good segue into giving our predictions here for the first couple rounds. I have a feeling I know where we're all going, and I think we'll be probably in agreement, and it's not going to be on the offensive line and wide receivers or tight
Now, before you
ends.
started,
So,
Sean, let me ask you, do you want us to do what we hope they pick or what we think the Redskins will pick?
I think we should do what we hope because to nail it down to one person is pretty mind-boggling and stressful if you think about it.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Yeah, this is true, and I'm fine with that because I think what I am hoping for, at least, I think is a highly probable thing that's going to happen. So actually, I'm cool with doing it that way too. So yeah, let's do what we hope the Redskins are going to do here in the first two rounds. With that, Steve, you want to lead us off?
Yeah.
here,
Okay.
or?
Well, I'll give both. What I hope is going to happen is, I think everybody who follows us on Twitter knows that I've been pleading defense for months now, and I do think we need to forget about the shiny toys. That are out there on offense and focus on the front seven and defense.
Forget about Dre.
Yeah, forget about Dre. Yeah, there you go. Eminem reference. See, I knew that. Anyway, there really aren't any interior linemen that are kind of worthy in the middle of the first round. So I'm gonna root for Hassan Reddick. I can't really get behind Reuben Foster for those of you guys out there on the Reuben Foster train because I know you are. We got a billion Twitter inputs on Reuben Foster this week. Mm-hmm. The guy has issues, so I just can't get behind a guy who's as much of a mess as him for our first round pick. So I'm going to root for Hassan Reddick. What I think they will do is ignore needs and draft either the one that is left between Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey. That's what I think they will do, which I would upset me greatly, but I'm rooting for Hassan Reddick.
Okay. You want to do second round too?
Second round. I don't have a name in second round
Yeah.
necessarily. What I think they will do, what I hope they will do is pick one of these defensive linemen, like the guys we went over, like Wormley, Bramley, these one of these interior linemen. That's what I hope they will do. I have a feeling, though, what I think will probably happen is after we go running back, that we'll probably go linebacker in round 2, whatever linebacker's left. But what I'm rooting for is the interior linemen, the best of the remaining interior linemen. So I'm going to go with Wormley, even though some people think he's a bottom of the first round guy. So,
all right,
there's my rounds 1 and 2.
Okay. Mark it down on the pages of history, folks. Let's see how close Steve gets
probably
to the
totally
truth.
wrong.
Okay.
I'm sure.
You never know with the Redskins, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. Who wants to go next? I can go next. Anybody else want to? Is anyone else bursting at the seams here to get their thoughts out here? Okay, I'll do it. I am going to say I think they're going D-line. I am gonna, and so this is both what I hope they do, by the way, and also what I think they're gonna do. So I'm gonna say Malik McDowell, if he's still there. I think I am undeterred by the other defensive line signings we've already made. I think, McGee is like I think these guys are both rotational guys or, camp bodies at worst. So I think that's where we're gonna go first. Second's a little trickier for me. I think it could be a corner. I think it could be a safety, or it could be a linebacker.
Basically,
I'm not sure which. I'd be honestly fine with. Yeah, I think the first 2 rounds here. I mean, I think nothing has happened to change my opinion that that's what they should do. So I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, they're going to stick defense, and then we might see we might see some offensive linemen or running backs or what have you. So. That's my call for it.
I guess I'll. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Alex, Jamal.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead. So I think I've fallen in love with one guy on this draft, and Steve's going to hate it because it's Christian McCaffrey.
You've fallen in love with a man?
Oh yeah, all the way.
It's okay.
You learn something new on the Hog Style.
I think Christian McCaffrey, he plays the harmonica. He's super smart. How can you not love a guy from Stanford like that?
And good God, do I hate that pick. Yes, you're right, Alex.
So,
curse a pox on you.
I also
he is
think
dreamy,
that
though, Steve.
The Redskins coaching staff has fallen in love with him, too. I've heard 2 names that that they're wowing about, and one is Reddick and the other is McCaffrey. I'd be thrilled with either.
Jesus.
I think both could contribute right away to this team.
I hate that too.
So Sean's mumbling under his breath. Please no.
I mean, I just kind of see that's how it's going.
I'm with you,
and
Steve.
The reason is this is not a good draft for defensive line, and not in the first round. So what I see is the first round.
If you can get one of those top 3 guys, you can do it.
If one of those guys falls, maybe, but.
And that's what we're saying. Some quarterback just declared, I believe, right, and pushed everything down a spot, theoretically. So I believe that's what happened in this last week here. So that's where I'm coming from with it. I hear where you're coming from, though.
So
I
would say in the second round, I'm hoping, that's when you grab one of these top defensive linemen who's left. I'm still higher on needing that nose tackle interior defensive lineman. The guy from Florida or Adams. If
Adams isn't going to be there at round 2.
You don't think so?
17.
Well,
no,
probably not. But we'll see. I would also be okay if they went safety because I think long term we still need a free safety. So if one of those good free safeties is still available, I'm fine with that as well.
Oh, by the way, I mean, if Malik Hooker,
I'm cool
if
with
Malik
that
Hooker is for some reason available at 17, they need to run not walk but sprint to the podium with the card and draft that guy.
I would be okay if they literally did a cartwheel as they ran up to the podium too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. However, they get their airmail it flight with the drone.
Yeah.
I don't care. But if Malik Hooker is available, draft him immediately.
They should get a drone
Alex,
just to fly all the cards up.
To fly the cards. Yeah, but see, then you'd have somebody trying to, hack the drone, and the Redskins will drive the Dallas Cowboys drone into the ceiling, and it'd be ugly.
All right. So for me personally, my thoughts line up with Alex's. I don't necessarily, in terms of defensive line, I don't necessarily think there's anybody at 17 per se that will want. I don't expect people to be there that we should be able to draft. So instead of reaching, I think we actually either trade back a few spots or maybe just go defensive line in the second. You can have your pick between Caleb, Brantley, and all the other guys that you've named. But in terms of first round picks, I see us going either inside linebacker, safety, or at running back. I don't necessarily think they really. I think they'd either choose McCaffrey or nobody. I don't think they'll go Dalvin Cook, honestly, just for some reason the way things are lining up.
Off-field issues with Cook. That's for
and then on top of that, like Dalvin necessarily isn't as great as a receiver as Christian McCaffrey is either. So you can always get somebody like that in the second or third, like Alvin Kamara. Like we talked about him last week. So that's a guy that I'm a big fan of. So personally, I just feel like they'll either go McCaffrey or inside linebacker between Gerard Davis, I think Zach Cunningham, and obviously Hassan Riddick. So I don't think Foster would be there, but I'd go for Foster as well. I still would pick him. I'd hesitate after the news that's been coming out, but I don't think that it's necessarily a huge problem. So
I just think it's too much of a risk, with your first round pick to pick a guy that Tobel follows him. I realize he had a tough background and tough childhood and all that stuff. And the drug failure at the combine was a diluted sample, not an outright failure. But I mean, Trouble finds that guy. It makes me nervous.
That's fair for anybody, because like I said on Twitter, I said if you sitting here on Twitter and you're still saying, look, I don't need to know what's going on off the field. His tape speaks for him. If you just saying that and you're still not hesitating to pick him, then that's an issue. That's an issue within itself. But me personally, like I said, I put everything into consideration. I don't know like the full details of everything. But I do know, I think he does have like an injury history with his shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd consider it. I definitely consider it. I don't think he's gonna make it to 17 though. So that's why I named Riddick, Cunningham, and Davis. So definitely, I think inside linebacker or running back in the first round, or safety maybe, Buda Baker or Hooker, but I don't think he's making it to 17. So, like I said, that, and then defensive line in the second. So,
yeah.
Something always goes screwy in these drafts to change everybody's, predictions here.
It's never accurate when the time comes. It's so many things change.
It'll be someone completely off the wall. It will. That none of us have ever thought about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what I did love though. I loved, Steve, your visceral reaction to the idea of a trade back scenario. That was great. Steve does not like the idea of trading back,
even if it means picking up another second rounder and another starter right away. He just hates it.
I hate draft. Yeah, and Sean watched me put a fake
man's
gun
had
in my
enough.
mouth and blow my own head off. Is what he was laughing about.
Yeah. So maybe don't take it that seriously, folks at home. But I think we'd all be pretty disappointed. We've done our fair share.
The only reason I'd hate to trade back is if we're doing this draft meetup at Penn Quarter Sports Tavern,
on Thursday night
during the draft. It just means everyone's staying there even later because
and it wouldn't.
Dude, just take that Friday off now. Just ask for it off right now.
Am.
That's what you need to do. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Smart man. All right, well, let's go from there. So anyways, those are our predictions. We'll have to put those up on the website or something so people can see what we predicted and how close we are, like we do with the season predictions, which we'll also have to do because guess what, guys? The season is out there. Season schedule has been released. So let's talk about that. I mean, that is always an exciting time of the year. Let's get right into it. Any general thoughts that jump out at you guys when you're looking at this thing?
Yeah, I have general thoughts, and I have some draft notes to go. I have some draft notes to go over. Let's get back to that at some point before the end of the show. But general thoughts.
Okay.
When I first looked at the schedule, I thought, okay, not too bad. The away games are kind of spaced out. Mm-hmm. We don't have one of these schedule losses where we're traveling on Sunday night and then playing away on Thursday night.
Not like last year.
Yeah, but then I started thinking about it, and when I wrote
nice.
it out on a piece of paper, and what I realized is that we have, of the 16 games, 8 of them are either primetime games or we're traveling to the West Coast. Mm-hmm. We actually only have 5, count them, only 5 well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games that are normal Sunday 1 p.m. start times, and that just being a Redskin fan makes me a little nervous.
Yep.
Because we traditionally, as everybody knows, famously don't play well in prime time, and then you throw in there 3 trips to the West Coast. It's actually tougher than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the schedule makers really screwed us because this is just the way it falls. But generally speaking, all these primetime games coupled with all these long travel trips, and then throw in there also we got to go to Kansas City, which is a 3-hour trip.
And
it's a tough
the worst
schedule.
Part about
I mean,
that
we
is
played.
You end up in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, good barbecue there, though.
Yeah.
For those of you who are
There's
barbecue
no going
fans.
back from that.
And we've got 7 playoff teams on the schedule, so it's actually a pretty tough schedule. Could be worse. What makes me nervous more so than the order of the games is all the primetime games.
Mm-hmm.
That's my general thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. The lack of 1 o'clock games is definitely surprising. This is the most later games, though. Being here in Mountain Time, it's not so bad for little old me. But it's kind of it is kind of annoying. God, I would wish they were playing the Broncos here in my neck of the woods too. That would be nice. I would agree with everything you said, Steve. I think we've got some opportunities to win some games early. I think we do have some tough ones on the schedule. Mike Jones of the Washington Post predicted 2 losses to the Cowboys. He's kind of a Debbie Downer in a 9-7, season prediction. I think that's kind of harsh. I think we can do better against this. I hear what you're saying about the times of day, Steve, but I think this is a winnable schedule. I think this is a more winnable schedule than we've had in years past, frankly.
You know me. I've always said if they could play every game at 1 or 4 o'clock, I'd be happy. I hate nighttime games because I
just think they play better.
They play better, and also I don't like staying up till midnight.
Oh, they undoubtedly
I like
do
too much to really like.
You don't want to record a show at 1 in the morning.
No, I hated when we have to do that shit. And
Jamal hasn't been through that yet. Jamal hasn't been through that with us yet.
Yeah.
It sounds miserable.
Just wait.
I am kind of excited that we're
You're
hosting a Thanksgiving game. I might have to change my Thanksgiving
first
plan
time ever, man.
now, but that.
Not only that, but we've got 2 Thursday games in a row, and I'd like to know. I don't know the answer to this. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, Dallas has done that
To any
2
team.
years in a row now.
For them, I think.
Have they really? 2 Thursday games
I
in a
think
row?
they did that last year. Yeah.
It's certainly a first for the
Yeah, I think
Redskins.
it is. Alex, I didn't. So have you finished it? I don't want to cut you off. All right,
I'm done. Yeah.
So yeah, for me personally, I actually thought this was a pretty favorable schedule. I think I didn't have really no issues.
Me
with
too,
it.
man.
The thing that I liked is that we didn't have any back-to-back road games till the end of the end of the year. We went on the road in week 13 and 14 against Dallas, and then San Diego or Los Angeles now, and then right after those 2 road trips, we have our first back-to-back home game with Arizona and Denver. So I think the way they spaced it out was well, and also the timing. I think we get a lot of rest this year because I know we have multiple road trips to the West Coast. For example, like week 3, we have the Sunday night game against the Raiders. In the very next week, we have the Monday night game. So we have an 8-day rest to play Kansas City, and then the next. The Thanksgiving Day game against the Giants. You got obviously you got the 8:30 game, and then the very next week we don't have a short-term rest like we did last year with the Dallas game, and then we had like a six-day rest with the Cardinals. So things spaced out pretty well for us this year in terms of the time and the amount of days, like literally the time of the game and then the amount of days that we had in between playing them. So I actually like the schedule in terms of how they created it for us. So I'm in favor for it.
One more note here on this. The last game of the year is on New Year's Eve, December 31st. It's 1 o'clock
At New
against the
York.
Giants in New York. Now, if the Redskins and Giants are in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt, that's a game they could potentially flex to evening for TV ratings, which would put the game on the evening of New Year's Eve in New York City, which, I could think of a better place to play a football game than that. Just bear that in mind. That's all.
That would be really interesting in a way, but
Yeah.
who knows?
That's fraught with danger.
Sure would be disappointing to lose It would be so disappointing to lose the last game of the season and miss out on a playoff hunt to the Giants 2 years
By the
in
way,
a row.
I think
that
is this
would
how many years in a row have we
suck.
played the Giants in that last game? It feels like it's been a lot.
It's just been the last two.
Seems like it, yeah.
I think in 15 we played the Cowboys. 14 we played the Cowboys
It was
again.
the Cowboys before that.
And then 13
Yeah.
I think we played the Giants. So a lot of
Then 12 we played
so
the
it's
Cowboys.
been a lot of divisional games to end the season, but last 2 years will be the Giants.
I like that.
That's good,
I
though,
really
isn't
like
it?
that.
That's
one of
good.
the best
Yeah.
things they've done to fix the
to make it
schedule.
interesting, man. And I'll be watching the Chicago and the Green Bay season finales, man. And Aaron Rodgers put on the show every time, so I'm definitely in favor for him.
Yeah.
So true. Well, so do we want to, before we move on, do we want to go on the record and put our season's
I
season
almost wanna wait
record
till
predictions
after
out there, or do we want to
Yeah,
do
I'm
that
about to-
after the
I'll,
draft?
I'll do a writing on
Lots
that,
could
too,
change.
for all the time. So I'll be sure to put mine in writing and put them up on there after post draft. So
I mean, yeah. I mean, we could do a way too early prediction, but I really think we'd have to go modify our predictions later. Quite honestly.
Yeah. I don't want to do the one that we put out there publicly.
We could do that.
0-16. That's my prediction.
You guys are just scared to lose to me again.
Yeah,
I've been
you
kicking
did win
ass
last
all
know.
season.
In a
I
row.
get
We're
all of it.
closest.
Yeah. You were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get the games wrong, but I always
You
get
hit the record
right.
dead
So
on
like
it.
that
Yeah,
Dead
counts
on.
for
Dead on the
something.
mark
seven
last
losses
year.
last
I
year?
think you predicted. Well, you didn't have
Yeah,
the tie.
2 years
Yeah.
in a row, I had it exactly.
I knew the tie. We ain't see that.
Yeah, the
coming.
tie was the one thing I fucked up.
Yeah. No one sees a tie coming.
No, nobody did. Weird British tie is what that was. Okay, well, let's move on then. That was the schedule. We're obviously probably going to be talking about that again. We also have a sweet little announcement to make. We got a Washington press release. So, Steve, you want to take us through what the team announced?
Yeah, I
what
just
they came
want to
out
go
with?
there real quick. They sent out their draft press packet, and there's a whole bunch of cool trivia in here. I just want to go over a couple points real fast and make people feel better. The first one is that since 2006, the Redskins have had a higher percentage of their first rounders go to the Pro Bowl than any other team in the NFL at 85.7, which is pretty cool.
That's not
so
bad.
we've done well. Yeah, that's what's number one. It's the best in the NFL.
Wow.
The only one who hasn't is Josh Doxson, and he's a rookie. 2016, when we had the 5 Pro Bowlers, that was the first time since 1986 that 5 homegrown players were selected for the Pro Bowl for the Redskins. So that's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Here's a bit of draft day trivia for you. Any ideas as to who the Redskins are going to send to represent the Redskins at the draft? Meaning the 2 guys are sitting there at that table who actually deliver the card. Any ideas as to
I
who
saw
you
some
think that should
weird
be?
random actor.
It's pretty random.
Uh,
Well, no. I'm talking about the Redskins
Actor.
employees.
Redskins
Who are
employees.
going to be the 2 guys sitting at the table.
I'm going to guess Doug
know,
Williams is one if we're going
No.
employee.
No.
No?
Doug's gonna be in the draft room. He's a scout.
Okay.
You're never gonna get this. Let me just.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get it ever. It's gonna be video director Mike Bracken and physical therapist, assistant athletic trainer Elliot German.
Well, I know who
Those
Mike
are gonna
Bracken
be the 2
is,
guys. Those are going to be the 2 guys who are representing the Redskins at the draft.
Okay.
Unbelievably. Clinton Portis is going to be announcing the picks on day 2.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. And
He's not the best public speaker out there, I've
No, he's
I've
really
found.
not.
How you doing
But, you know, he
today,
can-
Mr. Goodell? I am here to announce the
can-
draft pick.
he can at least read a name on a card as long as it's not a long name.
Yes.
Can anybody guess who is the last player we picked at 17?
17.
Anyone? You might.
Ooh.
It goes back a ways, but
All
you
right,
might get
what year?
this.
Give me time frame. Oh, Jason
Not-
Campbell.
Well, let's see. If
Oh.
no,
No, Campbell was like
Oh,
21.
he was 21. Okay.
Oh, that's a
knew
good
he was-
guess.
He was around there.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I give you the year, I mean that's going to give it away.
At 17.
Stephen Davis?
I'll say this much: it's in the
All right, so
90s.
yeah,
in the
Yeah,
I'm
right.
no good for
late
this.
90s. Yes, before you.
Wait,
before your
Chris
prime,
Samuels,
maybe.
maybe?
Late 90s?
No, he was
It was
like,
like
top 10.
2002.
Chris Samuels was number 2. Chris Samuels was number 2 overall.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm just trying to go through my late 90s draft picks.
late 90s.
Late 90s, early first-round draft picks. That is a very niche bit of
No,
trivia to know.
the question was who is picked
I
at
have
17?
no idea.
We give up.
Okay, it's Kennard Lang.
Kennard Lang.
Yeah. Now, the last bit of trivia here, we're going to go over here.
Not going to get
Yeah,
them.
well, I thought maybe you might get it. I guess that's before your time, too, Sean, honestly.
What, Kennard Lang?
Okay. Well, I
It
mean,
was.
how old were you in 97?
4.
Were you really paying attention to the draft? And
Yeah.
Jamal was 4.
I was
I was
9.
out of college.
That's
Good
when I
God.
first started really paying attention to the Redskins, too. Like, it was like early high school for me, so I was actually understanding football.
This just goes to show that I'm old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex has his child-size Lang jersey
Dude,
still
I
hanging.
went to
So,
a
and the-
guy who's obsessed with Kennard Lang. It was the weirdest thing.
Must have heard
That
his
is a
heart
weird
didn't work out.
obsession. I wrote that column this week, where I went through and counted every single draft pick since 1992 and showed how we've drafted a ton of defensive backs and a ton of linebackers and not very many defensive linemen. Well, the Redskins put the same stat out going back all the way to 1967, so I thought I'd give you guys that, and this is the last one of these. Since 1967,
Just to one-up you.
just to one-up me, and they've proven their own futility at the draft. We've drafted 456 players since 1967, which is the institution of the common draft. And of those 456, we've drafted more defensive backs than anybody at 85.
Right.
82 offensive linemen, 58 linebackers, 57 running backs, and yes, we've drafted more wide receivers and defensive linemen, 51 wide receivers, 50 defensive linemen, and then tight ends and quarterbacks, goes down from there. But so, yes, it is a fact that we have consistently, in the Dan Snyder era, in the post-Super Bowl era, and in the common NFL era, completely ignored defensive line with this team, which is why we have no talent on the defensive line, and we haven't had it for a long time. So there you go. So that was the Redskins. Thanks for the Redskins PR for providing this. There was a whole lot more stuff here than what I read, but thanks for that. Pretty cool trivia.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Redskins. You are awesome, but obviously you know that we think that. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Then we have a user poll as we usually do this week, as I understand it. Steve, is that correct?
Yes. This user poll is courtesy of our buddy Dave.
What you got?
Who is a frequent commenter, Dave at WSK28 Rules. He posed a question to us and said, "Hey, Hogstye, who do you think is the most critical person to the Redskins' long-term success?" And I could have just given him a BS answer on Twitter and blah blah blah.
Sure.
Thanks, let's get some
That's
attention.
what
But
we
I
do.
thought that's actually a pretty good question. So that's the poll question this week. So the poll question was, what person other than a player do you think is most critical to the Redskins' long-term organizational success? The options are Bruce Allen, Jay Gruden, Daniel Snyder, or other. So, and we got a lot of participation on this. People seem to like this question. So,
We got a lot of votes.
thanks to everybody
Did we
who
get a lot of
voted.
response?
We got a lot of votes. We got some responses.
good.
Not a ton.
Yeah, I saw-
So, what do you guys
We
think?
had over 200 something votes. I am gonna say that the most important person to the long term success is Daniel Snyder, because eventually he's gonna have to fire Bruce Allen. So
Okay.
that's who's my person.
Okay.
I think that's the clearest answer, though. I'll try to give a different one, but I think you're right on the money with that, Alex.
Okay.
Are you asking moi, little old me
I'm
next?
asking whoever wants to speak next. Go ahead, Sean.
All right, let's do this. I'm gonna say okay. So it's just Snyder, Allen, Gruden. I'm sorry.
Well,
was there
other.
another
If
option
you
there
think
that I
someone
forgot?
else is the answer, yeah.
Other. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. I am gonna say. I mean, the real answer is Snyder. I think that's the obvious
Let's
answer.
stick
But
with the obvious
taking it
answer.
another way, I don't think it's Bruce. Well, yeah, sure. I'm going to say my official answer is Snyder, but I'm going to eliminate Bruce Allen and I'm going to say Jay Gruden is actually the number 2. We have some things to talk about Bruce Allen after this, and I can explain more where I'm coming from with that. But long-term success, yeah, I think it's Snyder, and then I think in the medium to long-term success, it's going to be
I
Gruden.
agree with that.
For obvious reasons. That'd be my answer.
Jamal, what do you think?
For short term, I think is, well, you know what? Sure, it's Jay Gruden. I just think it's Jay Gruden. I would say Bruce Allen, but I really don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with the front office per se. So I don't know if Dan Snyder. I I just think it's Jay Gruden because I don't know what's going on in the front office.
I don't think anybody knows what's going on with the front
just
office
thinking about it
these
just makes my
days.
head hurt, as you can tell just now.
Yeah.
So Jay Gruden.
All right.
Okay, well we're gonna get to that here in the next segment. And okay, well Sean and Alex say it all together with me as they say every week.
You're wrong.
You guys said Daniel Snyder, and you would be wrong.
Wrong.
And once again, Jamal for about the third week in a row got it correct. The fans
Fuck you,
out
Jamal.
there, Jamal knows these polls. I'm telling you, I think you're
no
cheating.
need to,
Well,
no need to. I just talk about
He's
who
cheating.
I vote for.
He is cheating. He's logging in over and
Yeah.
And
Here's
checking
the
it.
thing. I actually log
He's
in
voting
and
100
look at what
times.
most of the answers are, but I don't care what the people say. I'm right.
Okay, well, 52% of the people out there voted for.
I like your
52% of the people out there voted for Jay Gruden, and count me. I didn't vote, but count me as one of the ones that would have voted for Jay Gruden. I think ultimately, to me, it's all the front office stuff is drama, is what it is, but ultimately, it's on the field what matters. And if you have a coach that works and is a good coach, that can overcome a lot. And so that's why I would have voted for Jay Gruden had I voted. Daniel.
Yeah, but the question's long
I
term,
know,
though,
but
right?
That's why I gave
Bill
it to
Belichick
Jay
is-
what
Jay,
coach
'cause I
sticks
really
around
didn't
Washington
know,
long
I wouldn't even
term?
know who to choose. I would have chose somebody in the front office, but I was like,
Well,
you know what? Go to Jay.
Look, the reason why these coaches haven't stuck around is that we haven't had success. If you have a good coach, Joe Gibbs was here for a decade. Bill Belichick has been at the Patriots for 18 years.
Right.
Mike Tomlin's been at the Steelers forever. Jay Gruden will stay around as long as Jay Gruden wins.
Right.
And so that's, and I think, again, ultimately, I think what happens on the field is what matters most. But Daniel Snyder was in second place at 27%. Jay was 52%, by the way. Bruce Allen came in third other was 15%. An undefined other, and then Bruce Allen was last at 6%.
Now that actually surprises me that I would think that those would be flip flops.
People just hate Bruce Allen.
Wow.
Well,
people
I
are down
think
on
other
Allen. Yeah.
people are probably
People are-
thinking GM whenever we finally hire a GM,
Probably,
that kind of
yeah.
thing.
Maybe that's okay. We have a
makes
couple
sense.
comments
That makes
here.
sense.
I'll read a couple. Since this was Dave's question, I will read Dave's response to this. His response was Jay combined with Campbell, in my opinion, while Bruce is running the show, and I'm not even 100% sold they can equate success. So that was what Dave said. I read this one because there's a bit of irony attached to this. The name is Pants and Picnics. He says, I have no faith in Dan or Bruce. I can only hope the scouts, Eric Schaefer, Jay, and his coaching staff can lead the team to victory. Now, the irony part is that his Twitter name is @BruceAllenGod, and yet he's saying he has no faith in Bruce. So there's some. I think you've got your.
Somebody picked their Twitter handle right after the Jim Zorn era. That's what.
Yeah,
that is.
exactly. Just a
Yeah,
little bit of
seriously.
good irony here. Our friend Cool as Crud, who we know,
Yep.
says.
Oh,
He
what's
says
up, man?
Snyder is the obvious and only answer, as he's the only one guaranteed to be with the team long term. And the last comment is from Eric Pope. That would be ARIC Pope. He says, "Me, that's who," and what he means by that is every other me, that's who, and every other fan that supports a team with their money. No fans, you have nothing. So that was Eric Pope's opinion, and that was
Smart
the poll
ass.
for this week. Well, he has a point,
Yeah.
I mean, I like the answer. The fans are, fans are important.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But it's still a smart ass answer.
So Dave, there's your answer. The voting public thought Jay Gruden was the most important long term to the organizational success.
Yeah, and everyone hates Bruce Allen, which is an interesting thing to bring up here as a segue into our next story, which we can do relatively quickly here. But interesting segue. So, obviously, the viewership here, the fan base of the Washington Redskins are very down on Bruce Allen. This is a kind of an interesting opportunity because we had this piece in the Washington Post that came out about Bruce Allen to talk about what he does really well as opposed to what he does really, really poorly. And I thought this article was actually super, super interesting. And I'm forgetting. Let's see. The article is
Bruce
called
Allen faces greatest Redskins challenge or something like that.
Yeah, it's
and which is, and then getting Daniel
Right.
Snyder a new stadium deal. So that's kind of what the headline is, but it's sort of a misleading headline because the whole thing is about sort of Bruce Allen's whole tenure here.
And
so
his, philosophy
I thought
and
it was
things
pretty
like that,
interesting. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty comprehensive article as far as these things go about the guy. talked about a lot of the leaks, the information leaks, the things that are speculated in the media, and when he does or does not address them. I don't know. Speaking big picture about this thing, guys, it seemed to me like he is a fantastic personality. He's kind of a people person, and I hate to say it this way, but the article kind of suggested he can be a little manipulative if things go wrong. He's very good at deflecting that attention and that blame to other people. I think the article kind of paints that more or less as his strength in doing these business things. He's that's a good character trait to have, but maybe not so good on the other things like the technical know-how of football, etc. So that's kind of generally what I got from it. What did you guys get from this article, and what do you think that was the most interesting?
I mean, I've said this before on this show. Bruce Allen was a politician.
Yeah.
I know everybody hates him, and you're entitled to hate whoever you want, but the guy's actually a pretty good team president in that what team presidents do are work on things like stadiums, things like practice facilities, things like major sponsorship deals,
uniforms.
What team presidents should not be doing are picking players in the draft, and that's where he falls down. But in terms of the team president stuff, you couldn't get a better guy to negotiate a stadium deal than the brother of the governor of Virginia, former governor of Virginia.
Yeah,
he's got that schmoozing in his blood, and he's good at that. The one thing I thought was very interesting in here is how they mentioned how Bruce Allen was screaming at the owners, 5 years ago when the cap penalty came out?
I remember when that story broke,
No, we did hear... Yeah, we heard about that before. I remember this story when it came out, when it was talked about in Washington. The background. I don't know. Sorry not to interrupt you, Steve. If you were going to give the background on that, but this was in the wake of the major penalties that were levied against the team for front loading contracts. This was back in 2010. The Redskins and the Cowboys were both penalized very, very heavily for that. This article talks about how Bruce Allen is in there in the owners' meeting, and he just kind of storms around the room and has this very animated profanity laced tirade about the entire thing, which didn't ultimately make a difference. And the article actually says he kind of lost a little bit of respect for doing that, but it also makes the point that every owner in the NFL looks at Bruce Allen through the prism of working for Dan Snyder, which means you're going to have to do some weird shit.
Most of these owners are a bunch of turds. They're arrogant, they're snotty, they don't respect the fans.
You don't get that, they're not that much money without being a little bit of a turd anyway.
Yeah, they're not really particularly nice guys. I have beat my head over, against the wall over the years, not recently, over this $36 million cap penalty. I analyzed it from a legal perspective, from a fan's perspective, from an owner's perspective. I really spent a lot of time trying to think about it, and I cannot come up with a rational reason, with a legal and proper reason why the penalty was proper.
Sure.
I really can't. There was no salary cap. Yes, the Redskins got the better of it. Basically, at the end of the day, the Redskins won up to the rest of the owners, and they didn't like it, and they penalized them.
Right.
And the Dallas Cowboys, too. And that's why the penalty came out. And I'm still mad about it. I'm glad Bruce Allen yelled at the owners. Some pompous asses like Jerry Richardson, guys like that, they deserve to get yelled at, and I'm glad he did it.
I mean, I still have the mental image of Bruce running around, almost doing the Al Capone thing with the baseball bat, and Dan Snyder sitting at the end of a table in a swirling chair, just spinning around, smiling the whole time.
Just smiling.
That's how I kind of picture it happened.
I had the same image.
Jamal, what do you think, man? We've cut you out.
I've just been listening because I didn't really have a chance to look at the article. Only thing that I've seen from the article within itself is something that was retweeted on my timeline from a comment by Jessica McClellan, which is obviously Scott's wife. So exactly. So
the mad tweeter.
I took the excerpt that was screenshotted with a grain of salt. I can't remember. I don't have it pulled up right beside me as we speak, but it was just pertaining to. Matter of fact, I do remember. It was just pertaining to the fact that when Cooley said something he speculated on air. We already know what that was about, but he speculated on air, and Bruce Allen just mentioned that he had a talk with Cooley and he had a talk with Scott, and we were all in the same. Well, we, as in Bruce is saying this, we were all in the same room, talking about it, and he elaborated, I guess, in that small part, and Jessica said that She basically denied that, saying that they never talked Cooley and Scott in the same room or had a conversation about it before since the day of the incident or something like that. So that's the only thing.
Yeah. I saw that. She said Chris Cooley and Scott McCloughan have not been in the same room since that happened.
So
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to get a whooping, one of the two of them. They're in the same room.
Well,
by the way, this is Liz Clark and Gregory Snyder on the article.
It's
I think the takeaway.
Everyone should go read it. If you're
really
not
good.
a Post member and it costs you a click, it's worth it. It is so worth it to give that one a read.
I think the takeaway from this, that we haven't mentioned, it really kind of goes, if you read between the lines, goes into why Virginia is the most likely landing spot for a new stadium. Because Bruce is really plugged into Virginia. He's got the Governor McAuliffe all involved in it. I think they've got
the whole training camp thing has been a great thing, for the team.
It's not so great for.
I think you're right.
For the team.
But for the team, yeah. And so I
but it's lucrative, for the team.
So I really think that, despite the fact that the DC residents like Alex, and I know Rich wrote a column about it, a while ago. I think our friend Rich, Virginia's the most likely spot. Like it or not, it's just that's the way it is.
I think if
not to say it will definitely happen,
done
but
next
it's
year,
most
you're
likely.
right. But looking at the new governor's race, there's some interesting things being said about it. So
maybe. Well, I've said this on the business show. I don't want to go
Yeah.
into it too much here, but I have a huge problem. We'll save it for another day. I have a huge problem with all this public money going into stadiums
Sure.
we're spending, $500 million or more on a stadium for a team that's owned by a guy who's worth multi-billion dollars. You can go get your own construction financing, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Do it yourself.
That's actually
I don't know
something
why
that
the
tends
public has to
across
pay for it.
Party lines too, because you and I are very different ends of the political spectrum, and you'll
Yeah.
find plenty of people on both sides that agree with you there.
Yeah. If you and I agree on something politically, it must have a
Yeah.
point.
That's a fair point.
Well, so can I just ask you guys one question about Bruce Allen
right.
before we wrap this thing
man.
up about this article? This is what I came away from this thing wondering. I think it makes the very clear point that he's a fantastic business guy. He's the guy you want negotiating the stadium, as Steve said. He's the guy you want, dealing with the contracts and that the whole legal side. He's
Right.
the guy you want in that regard. But it also says that it is likely in this article, I mean, who knows if this is true, it's tough to tell, but it also says it's likely that he also has some issues sharing the spotlight with people or letting people come aboard. He can be jealous, the article says. He can be a little unfair in that regard. So my question is it worth having him, the great businessman that he is, if this other side of him really is true, if his friction with McLuhan really is what brought that thing to an end, if he really does have these sort of character flaws and he's sort of easily wounded and jealous and kind of spiteful in that way, is it worth having him?
It's not
if
the
that's true.
greatest thing in the world, but at the end of the day, the only vote that matters is Dan Snyder. And if he continues to make Dan Snyder look good and feel good and produces a stadium and produces training camps and stuff, it's not going to matter if he's a little petty and jealous. That's what I think.
Yeah, you're making a great point because it's a great point because the article also says very clearly that Allen's got an audience of one. It's Snyder. That's the only person he needs
I
to
agree
please.
with you. I think there's a lot of this whole it's going to be his legacy thing. At the same time, I could just as easily see all this stuff blowing up in their face. This is the Redskins we're talking about, and there's just this stink about the team that it's always going to be there, I think. And let's say they get the stadium
Until they start winning.
unless we start winning.
Until they start winning.
Yeah. But let's say they get the stadium deal done,
Right.
and it's a terrible deal, and the stadium doesn't work out in the construction. Like, we've seen this happen before. You look at what's going on with Oakland leaving because they couldn't quite ever get that stadium deal worked out. Same with the Chargers. Let's say this blows up in their face.
Right.
He could go down as, a stain on the whole Allen legacy. And, I could just as easily see that being what happens in 10 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, if Terry McAuliffe
right.
leaves office, which he's going to do, and, the new governor isn't with it, that whole Virginia thing could blow up. And, I've said before on this show, there's tons and tons and tons of issues with putting a stadium in D.C. yes, we have a president now who's probably the administration's more amenable to it in terms of the name and everything, but there's still a billion issues with that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the state of Maryland, I don't know where you'd put it in the state of Maryland other than where it is. That's not, it's not going to get the Baltimore Ravens upset.
Right.
You can't really go too far north. So there's issues. Yeah, that's why I think it's important to close the stadium deal now. If I were from the Redskins' perspective, I think it's important to get it closed and get it rolling as soon as possible before Governor McAuliffe leaves office.
And I will say this: the city of Washington D.C. did apparently petition the Trump administration to buy the land outright from the government that the stadium sits on.
Yeah, well, the land is owned by the National Park. The RFK Stadium is owned by the National Park Service and leased to the D.C., which owns RFK Stadium itself.
Right.
And so
they're working on some kind of deal there apparently. So, that might throw things in a different direction if that were to happen.
Could. So there you go.
Well, I agree. I hope they get a deal worked out and something. There's movement at some point. It would be a great thing. Okay. Well, anyways, guys, is there anything else that happened in this last week that we didn't talk about already? We kind of went over today, but
you
hey,
had a
that happens.
Something happened recently to your family that we didn't talk about.
I did indeed. So anyways, shout out everybody. I have had this dream my whole life to be the fat uncle on Thanksgiving that's screaming at the TV and drinking a lot of beers. And I got one step closer this past week to doing that. So welcome to the world. I am fat. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm fat now. No. That's coming soon. But no, the real thing that happened was I became an uncle. Which is a really, really crazy thing to think. Yes, thank you. I did a lot for this child already. No, just kidding. My older sister had a baby, little Margot. Welcome to the world. It's a crazy thing to think of your siblings that way, but it's a major life,
awesome.
situation. So anyway, wanted to share that with you. Yeah, thank you. Congrats to her. Congrats to you, Lauren and Clay, and yeah, shit. Maybe she'll be a future contributor to the Hogsty. We'll see. I'm going to make her a little football fan.
Go.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see y'all next time. Make sure you're checking us out online as you always do at thehogsty.com, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Please don't do that.
Fuck you.
I think Jamal will start a chant.